Dan here, Vagabond Buddha. I'm in Nha Trang, Vietnam. Just finished my run. Had a few thoughts I wanted to share with you about the perception that you are the awareness of the all that exists between your thoughts. Your thoughts are who most people think they are. They think they're the thoughts. But thoughts are like, forgive me, I'm going to use words the best I can to describe something which exists in where you're sitting. Something that you already are, where you're sitting, that exists between your thoughts. I'll use words to try to describe it. There's nowhere for you to go to get to this place. You're already there. And the words can be deceptive because they imply there's somewhere you need to go to get to where you already are. So be careful of that. I'm telling you, you're already here. Anyway, so you have a series of thoughts, and if you can imagine that, like the thoughts are like they're a boat. Let's call it a boat in the ocean. They're originating from a boat in the ocean. This ocean's a little different. There's no waves. It's really calm. It's calm and peaceful and beautiful and needs nothing. It's complete and joyful and loving. The ocean is an infinite. There's no shortage of it. Where you are is a place. Where you are between thoughts is a place that's complete and total. If you were religious, you would call it being with God. But those are words. Being with God, as you imagine, might be more joyful than talking about being with God, or being with the all, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the all, that had no beginning, middle, and end, just the all as in the everything. Is where you already are. And then throughout your life you have thoughts that come from the boat that's floating. And the boat's floating in what you see as a spot within the all. And you identify with that spot and you give it a name. If your parents put a name on your birth certificate and you believe things. You believe thoughts. Thoughts are ideas. They're not. They're not what's so. They come and go. Thoughts you have when you're young, mature or change, or are completely replaced as you get older. So thoughts are dynamic ideas of self that you attach to your point of view and that you believe is you. The average human thinks they're their job, their family, and by average I'm not implying there's something wrong with them, because there are not average human beings. Everyone lives in both a spiritual world and a material world. The material world is the world where thoughts are not just ideas, they're believed into being. And so the point of view you have, if your name were Sarah or John, the point of view of Sarah or John, the things they believe, are not verbs from their point of view. It's who they are. They believe they are those thoughts. They are a teacher. They are a janitor. They are a bus driver. They are the father of. They are a mother. Those are just so. They're not thoughts that were believed in to get into existence. And there's however many people running around that have their own set of beliefs, and they distinguish themselves from the other by the different thoughts that they believed. But the boat, nevertheless, is in an ocean. I would say it floats, but that conjures up the idea that there's waves and turmoil. The boat is just being in the all. It thinks it has a bow and a stern and sails, and those are its family. But it's really the all. It's 100% part of the all, which is, if you will, if you're God, you're religious. And so there's nowhere to go in order to experience being with the all or with God. It's a mere recognition that you're already there. It's recognizing what's already there. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do yoga. You don't need to listen to me. There's nowhere to go, nothing new to learn. You're already there. It's being. It's being. It's being before you're being something. You see, it's actually the thoughts that you have to go somewhere. It's the thoughts that require energy. It's the thoughts that are changing. It's being that's peaceful. And so when you're trying to discover the part of you that is joyful and stable, it's the thoughts are distracting you from that, or taking you away from that. But you are part of the everything. If once they figure out the unifying equation, you'll see where you fit in that. If you're into physics, you'll see where humans and I hate to go off on a tangent, but I will, because maybe I don't hate it. DNA, if you read it all about it, DNA is what distinguishes the specialization between species. The more DNA you have, the more specialized you are. And so as you remove specialization, you go back to if you will, a oneness of being in the manifest world. And that's a corollary to the spiritual world. And it's not a corollary because there is only the one. There's only, if you're religious, there's only God's thoughts. That is the original thought, and it's never changing. If you're more scientifically oriented, it's the unifying equation. And the specialization of equations, gravity, and the various equations are specializations off of the original. And that's why they call it a unifying equation. And DNA is the same way. DNA, if you will, or maybe the absence of DNA before the first building blocks were created for the first specialization, the first cell, or I'm not a biologist, but that's that's where distinction occurs. That's where that cell, the first cell that was created or thought into existence, said another way, in spiritual sense, by the only, was the first time if you will, God saw a distinction from himself or herself. In fact, him and her are distinctions. So maybe it would be better if the first cell didn't have a sex. And we can conjecture why is another kind of distinction that didn't exist originally. It was God being, and God still is being, and just all the specialization is layered on top of it. Yet you have access to being with God. That's your original spiritual state when you're born into this world through a pair of eyes, ears, nose. You are with God. And it's only through a different kind of specialization, one that you can remember, which is memory and time related, that you begin to create these distinctions, like I'm here, you're over there. I am a human, you're another kind of animal. I'm a human, that's a plant over there. And so knowledge is a kind of specialization that is developed over time. And one of the most specialized forms of knowledge is in human beings. They have imagined an entire world into existence with automobiles and cars and airplanes. Whereas earlier manifestations or previous, even time itself is a distinction, but we're interacting with the distinctions between themselves and other life forms. It's really humans and maybe beavers making dams and other kind of animals that have created and imagined things into being. That is a thought specialization rather than just in a material world. And so humans we have all these distinctions that we see, and those are the distinctions that we created over time. Another distinction that distract us from seeing that actually the most fundamental relationship or distinction is a sort of an us and versus them. We see ourselves as separate from the world, and that's the organism, if you will. That's the specialization that our mind, another specialization, sees and believes into existence, and that's where we don't. And we find it entertaining, so we pay a lot of attention to it because it's a whole story of our own importance that we believe into existence. And it becomes difficult for us to see that we're no less God. We are still 100% God, or if you're scientific, we're 100% pre-specialization consciousness. And the joy of being is in being where you already are, with an awareness of the perception, not only that you are God, that God flows through you and there's only God, or the unifying equation. The all is explained by the unifying equation. Being, if you will, in the knowledge that you already are in that relationship with the all, and then seeing the deception of specialization for what it is. And by deception, I don't mean negative. If you will, it's all in God's plan. So I'm not talking down, or it's all in the unifying equations plan. It's all so. And there's no point in fighting what's so. We change it, or we transcend it by awareness. We don't transcend anything by denying it or wishing it weren't so. And so to be with God, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. There's only seeing what's so. That you are the all, that you're floating in the all. It goes through you. It is only you, and you are only it. And the thought that your personal specialization, who you believe you are, is the idea that you're separate from the all is a deception that you just have to see. And it's not a negative, it's not negative, it's just so that you see yourself separate. But to experience God, to live in the now that is already there, all you have to do is see the deception. You just have to see that your mind's telling you that every thought it's having that's painful, that causes you pain, you just have to be aware that that is a deception of sorts. And the mind, and this is more observational, I don't know if this is true, but the mind sort of thinks that by deceiving you, it can get you to do things. Like if it can convince you that you don't have enough money, or there isn't enough money, or that you're not worthy of love, or that you're not one of those people who has an amazing life, or that life is hard. If the mind's able to, be able to get the all to pay attention to a set of thoughts and define you by them, it's actually your own thoughts it's your own mind that is the guard at your prison door. And you don't even need to be, even the guard at the prison door, and the idea that there's keys to it, or that there's something to figure out or make better, or that you don't understand and that I know, and that someday you hope you get, all of that's just believed into to existence. The ability to live in God's grace, or to live in awareness of the unifying equation, to see your place in the universe, to be the captain of your destiny, rather than subject to whatever beliefs your mind is selling you. It doesn't require you to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. There are no tricks to learn. I can't help you. I don't have the answers. You're already there. There's nowhere for you to go. You're already there. You just have to be. You just have to be, which includes being the all, seeing the all, feeling the all, and there's nowhere, you're already doing it. And when the deception speaks, you don't have to believe it. You just see it for what it is. It's a distinguishing characteristic that you've manifested in your life over time that may not be serving you. And just the very act of being present and seeing it is all you need to do. There's no other act you need to take. When it speaks, when the thoughts occur, that when the pain comes, when the thoughts occur, just see it for what it is. It's a specialized thought that's trying to move you in some direction. And it doesn't mean anything. It's not even true. It's only true because you believed it. And you can just be present to the all, the warm, joyful all. As the mind whispers thoughts, just don't purchase them, don't buy them, don't believe in them. And just live in whatever action makes sense from now. Live in an action that makes sense. Don't live in a fear of what will happen. Don't live in a greed. Don't live in desires or wants. Don't live in the past. Live in your original state. And just let the thoughts that manifest those limiting thoughts into beliefs. Just see how it's asking you to believe in it. You just have to see it and it loses its power. You just have to see your original. You just have to be where you already are to see the power that the mind is trying to use you for, trying to specialize you into. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, just be and watch. Watch when it thinks. Alright, this is Dan of Vagabond Buddha, coming to you from Nha Trang, Vietnam. Have a great day.